Hey, it's Brian, your friendly neighborhood STEM professional. And, I get a lot of questions about STEM. I get a lot of questions about conspiracy theories. My question to you is, what constitutes evidence? When you hear a claim, what do you refer to as evidence? What do you accept? So, um, when you hear someone say, well, I saw this, or I observed, or you yourself say, well, I saw this, my recommendation to you is instead of relying on your observation, rely on your measurement. So there's a very famous example of a teacher, a high school history teacher, who staged, without the student's knowledge, staged a conflict with a fellow teacher. And that teacher, they had that battle in their classroom where they had words exchanged, a little bit of physicality. And then after it was all said and done, the teacher had his students write down their observations of the event at hand, right? And then, of course, then he presented the compilation of everybody's observations, and it was to make it abundantly aware to the students that everyone has a different viewpoint, right? Same event, right? Sometimes very similar points of observation, but because you pick up different things, that's not an objective truth. And the other thing is, sometimes we see things and we're actually seeing a phenomenon that we don't recognize, or we don't in the moment don't recognize that phenomenon is happening. And so I'm going to share and talk to you about a scenario where a gentleman sent me a photo, and what he did was he claimed it was evidence of a flat Earth, right? And so not saying that he was out the gate inherently wrong, but I said to him, I said, well, have you bothered to look up the distances of those different islands, the heights of those different islands, etc.? And he just rejected it altogether. And then I took him through the math, I took him through the geometry, and he still just balked at it. So let's just take you through it real quick. So I'm going to share my screen. We're going to look at this photo. So this photo is taken from an island called Koh Samui, and it's in the Gulf of Thailand. Koh Samui is right here. It's in the Gulf of Thailand. There's Bangkok, Thailand, Cambodia, etc. Ho Chi Minh City. Koh Samui is right here. The photo was taken from this point up here, W Beach, right? And so in that photo, he claims that A is an island called Koh Tao, and then B, he's claiming, if I zoom in here, you can see the pixelation change ever so slightly right here in the image. And that area of the image, he's referencing an island called Koh Tao. And in the maps, I look at it, you have Koh Samui, that large body of mass here is Koh Phan Luang, and I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but that's okay. But this little island here is Koh Tao, right? And I have I have the train turned on so that I can see where the highest peak is. But right here, it's about 243 feet above sea level. Now, if I come in here and I look, that point B is this island way out here, Koh Tao. And I look at the map here, and the highest point is going to be up here at this peak. And I just come in and I measure this distance from that peak there to down here to the beach where he takes the picture. It's about 39.46, 39.43, somewhere in there, miles, right? Now, the distance, you can see that, of course, yep, I can see through that channel. There's a an island, okay? And if I come in here and I say, okay, well, let's take that and let's change it to the smaller island, okay? Smaller island at its peak, and I'm about 10.1 miles, right? So in addition, you look at this picture, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. He's also referencing C over here. Well, C is just this island here. This is it's called Beaufort or Beaufort, and then this peninsula. That's what you see in that picture, right? So now the question is if it's a flat Earth, how would that work out? Now I can go to that. I can just do a Google search and say Koh Tao, Koh Tao Island, and I can look at this website, Scuba Birds. It just gives you some facts about the island. But the highest point on the island is right here. The highest points in the island are 190, 313, 310, 211, 210, and 379 meters above sea level, right? So if I do the math here, I just come in here and I do 379. The conversion to feet is going to be divided by 0.3048. So I'm at 1,243 feet, right? So if I come over here to Excel, let me just pull up an Excel spreadsheet. Boom. There we go. Okay. So Coteo is at 39.45 miles away. The peak is, right? Its height is 1,243 feet. Kotal is only 10.12 miles away, and it's at a height of 243. The difference is that Koteo, the farther island, is 3.9 miles or 3.9 times farther away, but it's 5.1 times taller. So if it was flat, then this blue triangle would represent Kotal, and this orange triangle would represent Koteo. Just to put that in perspective, if it were in fact flat, then what you would see here is I would see the peak of Koteo higher than the peak of Kotal. I don't. Why don't I? Well, it's because of the curvature of the Earth. Now, I happen to have created a CAD model. Like I do CAD models all the time to show these things. So here I have it based on the flat Earth. Right? And if I take that flat Earth and I just measure it out. Now, what I've done is I've taken this sketch, right, and I've scaled it out where it's 1 inch is a mile, right? And so when you look at this, 39.4 inches, 10.14, 10.12 miles, right? But then I look at that, and of course, the height of that's the angle, the height of the mountain, 0.235. Well, that's the if I take 1,243 feet divided by 5,280, right? That's what I'm getting, 0.2354, right? Same over here, 243 feet is the height of that peak divided by 5,280. I get a height of 0.046. Now, because of the aspect ratio of the width versus the height, it makes it really hard to see this, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rotate my model and bring it over to where it's skewed. That way I can zoom in and I can actually see it. Now, I'm still looking at a 3D model. It's just it looks 2D on your screen. But you can see that I should be able to see the peak of Koteo much easier than I see the peak of Kotal. Going back to the picture that we have, there we go. That's not the case. I can't see it. Can't see it very well. Now, the gentleman who took this photo swears up and down and said, you can see the island from the beach. That means that the earth is flat. I said, no, because the fact that you can't see it better means that the earth is curved. Because when I come in here and I look at the curved version, there it is. On the curved version, not only can I see the near island higher, but you can see that this line here represents my view of the horizon, right? So it matches reality rather than defies it. So this is an example of evidence. Like, does this constitute evidence? And my question to you is, if it doesn't, what does? Right? So I'm taking a photo, I'm looking at what I see in the photo, then I go and look at the distances, I measure it, get some data from there. I pull up an elevation finder and I look at based upon the map in the Gulf of Thailand. I go to Koh Samui and I look at it and I say, okay, well, if I'm on this map and I looked at the map, the peak was somewhere around right here. So what do I get there? And it's going to give me an elevation. Okay, 245 feet, right? No big deal. Okay, go over to Koh Tao and I look at it, and that elevation was somewhere around up here. Now I can just let's go satellite. I'm going to say somewhere around maybe somewhere around right there. Okay, I don't know exactly where it was, but this says 1,196 feet, so almost 1,200 feet. So somewhere around there, I'm going to have a peak that's actually the correct height. So it's calculating. Come on. Let's see what we get. sometimes this particular app is a little slower in responding. Switch. It still didn't recognize. There we go. So 1120. Okay, so that got me lower. So if I come over here, what do I get? 1216. 43. So it's going to be somewhere in here. Oh, wait. Anyway, it's somewhere around there. Now, I went to a website that had the information, but either way, I'm still many times higher on this peak at this island than I am at the local island. So I hope this gives you insight into ways that you can know something is true. So I've done the same thing with satellite trajectories from antennas on the Earth up to the sky. I've done the same thing with mountains like um, Pikes Peak next to Colorado Spring. So the reality is the Earth is curved. What's your evidence of it? So I hope this helps. Have a good day.